I grew up in musical theater, and I thought that was going to be where I would star. And this thing happened to me called Star Trek. And I thought it was a really nice stepping stone. To
That'd be good for a while, you said.
And when they did 2 pilots, the first one didn't sell, the second one sold. And then my agent called me. I was somewhere in the world. I keep thinking I was in Paris, but it could have been Canada or England. And I got this call saying from my agent, come home, they're doing Star Trek. And I didn't, even though I knew Gene Roddenberry, who had given me my first guest star role in that first clip you saw, I'm the Lieutenant, I didn't know what Star Trek was. And so I said, I'm not coming home. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm starring in all of these blah, blah, blah. And he said, there's going to be a first-class ticket waiting for you. You have your little brown butt on it. And if you don't get this, the ticket is on me. And if you do get it, I want my cotton-picking money back. It was the best cotton-picking money I ever paid back to someone. And then all of these things began to happen. And Gene took me out to lunch once I got the role, and he said, when you came in for the interview, you had this book. And whenever I cross the ocean or I carry a big book and to read. And this one was a bestseller by Rourke, and it's called Uhuru, which is Swahili for freedom. And Gene said, you know, I really love that book, the book, and I hadn't read it before you came in with it, but I knew it as being a bestseller, and I hadn't had a chance to read it. I really like this name, Uhuru. I'd like it have something to do with you, and possibly your name. So I blithely said, well, why don't you do an alliteration of it and soften the end of it with an A and make it Uhura?
There it is. That's so interesting that
And
both of you
Gene
named your
Roddenberry
characters.
said, that's it. That's your name. It belongs to you. You named yourself, and now I know where you're from. You're from the United States of Africa. Fill in the spots on who your people were, because they must have had great expectations for you. It went just like that. And that's how Uhura was born. And so I took it quite seriously, and I figured in the 23rd century I wouldn't have really a strong accent, but I would have strong ethics, according to them. And when I read for the role was not written, but there was a scene that they asked me to write to read one of the characters, and it was a scene between somebody named Kirk and somebody named Bones and somebody named Spock. And they asked me to read the role of Spock. And I went, ooh, this is a good role. Okay, tell me something about this character. What is she like? And they said, don't you know anything about this? I said, no, I've been out of the country. Said, well, actually, it's not a woman's role, it's a male. And I said, pity. And, and they said, well, tell me if I were going up for the role, what is the characteristics? And by the way, could it be a woman? And they said, yeah, it sure could be, but Leonard Nimoy would not like it. So I said, okay, and that's how I read for the role, as though the character was a female with all the characteristics that Leonard brought to it. And they didn't tell me it was an alien with green blood yet. and pointed ears. So I went for that role just as though it had been a role for a woman.
Because you're an actor. It could have been
Absolutely. You know, because you can
gender,
play it
could
all
be
kinds of ways. You could play it cutesy-pootsy, you know, or you could play it like I created the role. And when I finished, they all sat there and looked at me, and they said, would you wait? And I said, certainly, thank you. And I went out, and I heard him say, tell Penny, Robert Justman said, call Penny and have her call down to personnel and see if Leonard Nimoy signed his contract with. So I waited with my big book, and I was reading it for about an hour before the director stuck his head and said, "What are you doing still here?" And I went, "Oh, God, I'm glad I've got that ticket." I didn't get it, you know, and he said, "You got it when you walked in. Come on, let's go to lunch and we'll talk about it," and that's the way it happened.
Love those stories.